Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge. Welcome to Eldridge and Company. This year, she's gone from building a base of support for Obama to strengthening one that supports New York City's black communities and underserved neighborhoods. Joyce Johnson is the president and CEO of the Black Equity Alliance, and she's here today to talk about her present assignment and a little bit about, I hope, the other endeavor.
Thank you, Ronnie. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's talk about the alliance. I'd like to know exactly what is it, and where does it stand in the community?
Sure. This was an idea, just to give you a little bit of background. About 5 years ago, in 2003, the then president of United Way of America thought that, there should be some great focus for Black New York, not at the exclusion of anyone else. And patterned much after the other federation, the Asian Federation, Hispanic Federation, the Protestant Federation, there needed to be some concerted effort around the state of Black New York,
and that's
if you will.
interesting, because I imagine United Way was getting requests to fund different individual programs.
Exactly, so and so that rather than this scattergun approach, more or less I would have to say a holistic approach to look at the state of Black New York, some of the issues and ills, and corral all the stakeholders, if you will, the faith community, the educators, the business community, the nonprofits, the folks in corporate America, and just good-willing folks, to start to look at the problems that have been historical. We lament year in, year out about them, but there was never a laser beam approach, and God knows, as you know, there are thousands, probably 20,000 nonprofits out there doing great stuff. So Black Equity Alliance was conceived to help build capacity to strengthen this nonprofit sector for those folks journeying out, out there, technical assistance, to connect dots. I always maintain that there are many good organizations out there who are already funded, and what they need are the resources and people and organizations to support. Black Equity Alliance will connect those two dots.
They're such wonderful organizations, and they don't sometimes know of each other's existence.
They don't know of each other's existence. They don't know the need now to collaborate, work smartly. Everyone is, and even in funding, great funders, they don't want how to get it. Oftentimes their infrastructure is not what it should be, the financials, the organizational stuff. So to provide technical assistance, not to provide the vehicle to technical assistance.
So you're going to introduce groups to each
other.
But this report was the basis for your... Was it the basis for the creation, or
it wasn't the
sort of simultaneous?
Simultaneous, because again, the issues have been there, and the Urban League, as you know, of New York puts out an annual report, every 10 years a report. Coincidentally, Black Equity Alliance partnered with the Urban League to do the State of Black New York, 2007. And what it does is examines 11 areas of need, disparity for Black New Yorkers, things that we know about, but most jarring to me, and I can't claim to have read chapter and verse, page to page, but the prison to the cradle to prison pipeline, the disparity in how many of our youth, who are going to prison. Another striking piece was the disparity in opportunities for Black male and women in the construction trades, the apprenticeships
we've known
forever and ever. And particularly now with our housing and boom and building, every little corner of New York is being built up. What an opportunity for youngsters who don't have to have a college education, a journey trade, good wages to come into this pipeline and be a part of the fabric of New York and its economy. And so things like that, this report highlights, in addition to, problems in education, the disparities in health care, on and on and on.
All the things we know.
All the things we know.
But this is aimed at the Black community.
At the Black community. For the Black, and what we've done since 2007, we've held forums all across New York City to say, it's one thing to know it, it's another thing to have something in your face that says, okay, this is it. These are the statistics. we've known them anecdotally, but now it's time to do something about it. And so this is like a charged catalyst for advocacy at the local level.
So do you also then go to people, to Black people who have succeeded, to get them involved? I mean, the people who are running businesses or high up in businesses?
All of that, because while, you know, some would have the notion, oh, gee, poor Black America, poor Black New York, that is not the case. We are well funded. You know, our contribution to this economy, $79 billion. So it says a lot of us have, but a lot of us have to be far more engaged in our community, and it's all local. And, you know, not getting ahead of myself and touching on the other subject we will talk about, but I think the timing of this is powerful, that those that have to contribute back, you know, and so we, you know, when you talk about the corporates, the businesses, everyone has a stake in the repair of Black New York, and therefore all New York.
We want to eliminate that disparity, right?
Eliminate the disparity.
And it's not even necessarily, it's so interesting because the disparity is not even necessarily color, but it frequently is, or the majority. But
it's coincidence of poverty, and lack of opportunity, and that, you know, every ethnic group can claim that disparity. And so for, you know, well, I call it, it's an urban agenda. So it's white, Black, yellow, green, the working poor. You know, those who are, you know, impoverished, and so.
And the old thing about if you help one group, it's going to help another group, and so it's all going to be collective.
Exactly.
And you're going to pinpoint. You're going to advocate for those needs of the Black community.
Absolutely. And hold and likewise hold the Black community ourselves responsible for ourselves, because you know, the days of, you know, someone else has to save me are really over, because particularly now we're all kind of in the same sad boat together. But that's not a hard charge, you know, having parents from the South, and that's something the way it just used to be. And I think we have to get back to that.
You know, I'm going to come back to your family and your background, but you mentioned the prison issue first. That is an acute problem.
It is an acute problem. There's a young man, Dr. Divine Pryor, in this book. And it's one of those things that we have done a show on Manhattan Neighborhood Network cable. I hope I'm not, you know.
That's all right. That's great. People should watch it.
Because we want this issue to get out broader than the opportunities for forums where there are 100, 200 people. But this is a town of 8.5 million. Critical issue. We know the proliferation of prisons in upstate. I grew up in Poughkeepsie, New York. There's a little town called Beacon, New York. And when I was growing up, no one would even, it was like the Wild West. No one would go to Beacon. But now Beacon is the site of the downstate prison. What Beacon and its economy, I mean, upper middle class, all fueled by this huge prison site. And our residents in there are over 80% young Black and brown young men from New York City. And so you know, as we fought for the Rockefeller drug laws and all of this, all of this, that is an acute problem. Speaking of interest, there's a group called, a group of lawyers who got together, Pipeline Strategies, African-American who are looking at this and trying to save young Black men from this pipeline to prison.
And the chances are they're going to go back in once they're in. The recidivism rate is just in and out and in and out.
Exactly, because with the failure or lack of jobs, where do you come back to? You come back to your same depressed neighborhoods. And so Dr. Divine Pryor, this is by design. You must fuel this prison economy.
It's a prison industrial complex, right?
Exactly.
And in
the
some
United States of America, in New York State, in New York City, yes.
In some cities, they have upstate. They have empty prisons, basically, or so few in the population. But because it's so important as an employer, they stay open.
Absolutely.
It's a terrible
waiting
problem.
For the clients.
Yeah, there are statistics, aren't there, that there are more African American young men? I don't know if that was.
In prison than there are in colleges.
Yeah.
Now, growing up with the reverse, you know, the way up from Southern days 50, 60 years ago, that, you know, parents struggled. They were day workers. They were maids and butlers. They were just, you know, whatever it took to have a good job and And the way that was
and the economy has
my
changed
parents.
so much
yes.
now.
And so the necessity for an
jobs.
education,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So where did you grow up?
Poughkeepsie, New York.
Yeah.
Small town girl. Always say I'm a country girl from Poughkeepsie, New York. But my roots are Southern. My parents, my mother's from Charleston, South Carolina. My dad's Fayetteville, North Carolina. And they came north to Poughkeepsie, a la IBM. My dad was an electrical engineer at IBM.
Oh, and that's what
That's
made
what
the move.
made the move.
But you're a very political being, so how did you get to be a political being like that?
You know,
I'm always fascinated
I'm a chip off the old block. I used to, you know, at the age of 9 years old, 9 years old, I watched my first Democratic National Convention. It was the most exciting thing.
What was it, dear?
It was 56. I'm dating myself.
Stevenson. And,
Yes. And the reason why, because my parents had the TV, and that was the only thing that they would watch. So they were very political. My mother and dad formed the Poughkeepsie Voters League at a time. They're coming from the South. They're Democrats. Come to Poughkeepsie and find like all the black folks are Republicans. They don't understand this. And they said, well, we've got to have the balance. So they formed this league, registered an enormous amount of people to vote, and my dad started talking about block voting to talk about the issues of particular to blacks in Poughkeepsie.
Fascinating.
So I grew up hearing all of this stuff, and so I can't help myself.
And he ran for office.
He ran for office in '68. You remember that was the wave all across the country of first time blacks in office, and so he was the first black elected to public office on the Common Council of Poughkeepsie in 1968, I think in the Hudson Valley. But my mother had a dual career as you know, the first African American in the Poughkeepsie school system.
Is that right?
So I have to do some kind of good work.
You do have to. You have to be. What were you first in?
Well, a little of everything. I was in high school. I was on the, you know, every class has a GO representative to the general organization. So I was that, you know. And when I went to college, my cousin wanted to be in our freshman year. She wanted to be freshman, you know, queen. And I ran for vice president of freshman class. I went to school at Howard, so they're like, oh, Poughkeepsie, New York. No. Everybody from D.C. got elected.
That's so bad. So you saw the difference with the South and the North,
right?
And all of a sudden you're a Northerner instead of just being a part of the thing, right?
Exactly.
And that's what happens when you're a New Yorker, right?
That's it. Oh, forever.
Absolutely.
Forever.
And in Manhattan. So you've run for public office.
I have. I spent. Honestly, you know, it was my dream to one day go to Congress, because I thought that was the best place to do great work. I grew up in a corporate environment. Seagram, I rose to be director of equal employment opportunity during the 80s, and I saw a dismantling of affirmative action from all over the country, you know, minorities, women, and all of that. And I said, the way you put teeth into, you know, into the problems is to become elected. So I started pursuit. I haven't gotten there. I have not been elected. And now it's like, oh, maybe I can do good work elsewhere. But I ran for city council and assembly.
It's hard with that Harlem establishment.
It is brutal. It is brutal.
There's so many people waiting and so many people staying.
Well, see, you know, having grown up in Seagram, where you just do hard work, and I started out in a manufacturing plant, first woman in management, and so you kill yourself working, you prove yourself, and then you move up.
Right.
That's not the case in our politics.
No, but you're a member of the platform committee at the Democratic Convention.
I am.
So that's going to give you an opportunity.
It will, a platform, and I think that what the Obama campaign and the DNC is doing now, with respect to first time in 40 years, Ronnie, where regular people all across the country, I think there's some 1,100 hearings that have been held. And you know, as you've been a part of the organizing here, 3 here in New York, where regular people can have input in shaping the platform.
It's announced that there's going to be a hearing, and people come and say what they'd like to see in the
platform.
Say
what they'd like to see in the platform.
And the platform has lost its significance in the last couple of years, but it's basically a very important document, because I've always looked upon it as the agenda for the next 4 years.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. And it's been, I think, you know, we can say on both sides of the aisle that it has been, you know, held in the hands of a few people who come, 160 people, They come every 4 years and talk about what the platform should be.
I was on the platform for the McGovern
Were you?
campaign. Now that was a campaign, as everybody
Yes.
says, he lost so badly because
Yeah.
the liberals, lefties got control. But did we have times on that platform?
Well,
It was really...
Our first meeting is in, I thought it was going to be in Washington. It's going to be in Pittsburgh. No offense to anyone watching who's from Pittsburgh, but on the 8th and 9th. And there is before the larger platform committee meets, there's a preliminary meeting of a short platform drafting. But I'd like to see some provocative things come out of,
There's been a recent debate, I think, between Obama and McCain on affirmative action. McCain is against it, and Obama said he's for it with certain guidelines or something.
Well,
that's important.
Having been a director of equal employment opportunity, and it's the language, the affirmative action was never about a quota. Affirmative action was simply those words, to take affirmative measures to ensure and to provide opportunities for minorities and women and on and on and on. It never said you had to hire anyone. I certainly would not, a certain number who were unqualified. All these things, with all things being comparable, education, capacity, ability, to take affirmative steps to have the workforce look like the country.
Right. It's very important. Now, it
is very important.
You were, for a while, I think, maybe the only paid staff person in the state for Obama, or maybe the second. There were two of us. You came in, and you're suddenly the field organizer.
Yeah.
And what did that mean? When did you start? In December?
October, because he had to qualify for the ballot.
Right.
And so the ballot process, they had to get him on the ballot, the petitioning.
Yeah.
And as you know, this was, obviously the home state of, Hillary Clinton. And the Democratic establishment necessarily was lockstep behind her, as
it should. And in October, who was Obama?
And in October, who was Obama? And called me crazy. But I couldn't help myself. But what emboldened me...
So let's just go back, is that you have to find people who are going to run as delegates in the primary,
right?
And then you have to get petitions. How many signatures do they need?
There were 5,000 for him around the state.
To get his name on the ballot.
But in each congressional district, there was another 2,500, I believe, was the threshold.
And how many congressional districts?
29 congressional districts, and it was our strategic thought to run and to field candidates in all 29 congressional districts. That was no easy task, downstate, certainly not upstate, as there are fewer and fewer folks who are Democrats. The establishment was locked out, so all the people that you and I know, they were all, on Hillary's slates. And so we just, but the interesting part of this is, as we started to talk and say, well, who's up here and who's up there, we found pockets of people who on their own had started their own organization for Obama, irrespective of a campaign that was non-existent. And this was across the state. And so we sort of corralled these folks, and many of them, Ronnie, had never, this was their first time anything in politics. They didn't even know what a slate was. Like, you want to be on the delegate slate? What's a delegate? What's a slate? Why are we petitioning?
What's the party?
What's the party? Found so many Republicans.
How did you find them?
Just almost word of mouth.
Did you you went upstate?
Mostly, originally made calls, because, being from Poughkeepsie, in the Hudson Valley, well-known, families well-known, so sort of started up there, heard of, so-and-so I know is an Obama song. It was literally person by person, but there was also people who would sign up online as supporters of Obama. That's why the technology was so important. And so we obviously reached up to people who said they were interested, wanted to know more, cold calls to say, in addition to knowing more and interested, would you be willing to run as a delegate? Again, what does that mean? What do I have to do? But the amazing piece that let me know that something different was going on universally across the state. And the difference sometimes between downstate and upstate perception. I have yet to hear anybody say anything about why. I'd ask, well, why? The right man for the country. the right person for the country. I heard him at the convention. I knew then he was going to be president. And I'm saying, what? But so startling to where, you know, we're all, as he would say, we're red, blue, Republicans, Democrats. I haven't heard the right person for the country, not the right man, the right, oh wow, an African American, just the right person.
For the times.
For the times,
I have to admit that you called and asked me to run, and
no, more than asked, Ronnie. I begged you.
And I declined. And that was because I had offered to months before, and nobody had ever called me. So I misjudged. I mean, I was for Obama from really the first time.
You were indeed.
But I misjudged. I thought, well, there's not going to be any support. I'm just not up to running my own campaign.
Right.
Was I wrong?
Right. But look at what you did on the. I mean, that West Side operation that you put together.
We still have a great operation.
Wonderful. I mean, you know. With my knowing you and who you are, I said to, you know, this folks at the state, my counterpart, says, look, you know, Ronnie Eldridge can do that West Side piece. And, you know, oh, well, it was Ronnie Eldridge, that's it. Now, see, that's where you have to be a home girl.
But I have to admit, the West Side does it themselves. You know?
This is true.
But I don't want to tell too many people that because I always get I get the credit. But, you know, we had a group and we printed up a button just saying Obama, a blue button, and we sold them on the street. And in the wintertime, in the cold wintertime, people would go out and we bought these little tables from Target.
Right.
And we'd be out there selling these buttons, and we asked for contributions. We didn't sell. And with the money that we got, we printed up more buttons, and the button man says we've sent 85,000 buttons across the country. We sent them to primary states.
Oh my God.
Because the Obama campaign is not known for supplying its supporters with much.
Well, that was the beauty.
To put it least,
that
right?
was the beauty of the entire campaign, because what your story was the story all around the state. There's a woman, Patty Metheny.
In every state.
And every state. And, you know, upstate, you know, and talking about the timing, it couldn't have been worse timing for petitioning. I mean, we're used to petitioning in July, June, July. But October, the dead of winter, upstate when it's dark. There's a couple, I forget their name, in Ghent, New York, the 20th Congressional District. And Patty Metheny was our leader there. And she has this little couple, I just wish I could remember their name, 82 years old. You know, he's 81, she's 82. And they would go out religiously and to get, you know, people to sign petitions for Obama. It has been an incredible journey, the best of my life.
So how many delegates got elected?
About 60.
That's
60 in the primary, and then, of course, you know, post-primary, we had to field another, I guess, 35 or so. But that was
what percentage of the delegation? That's pretty high.
That's about almost 40%. Almost 40%. And that was absolutely unexpected. Chicago asked me midway, like, well, what do you think? And this was I think in November, his polling was around 17%. And so they said, well, what do you think we're going to do in the primary? And my bravado was, I think we'll do between the 38 and 42%.
Yeah, you always said that. And then it turns out, so now you're a genius also, right?
No, just lucky with the numbers.
You know, what fascinated me was a lot of the elected Brooklyn public officials supported Obama. But a lot of others in Manhattan and every place else, African Americans, did not. Did you detect that there was any kind of hesitation on their part or sadness that they...
Oh, I think, you know, it's, I've lived my life. I read JFK's Profiles on Courage, and that mattered to me, and it has forever. And you know, it was, if I had an aspiration of, you know, going to politics, certainly this did not help. But it felt right, and I think that, you know, I heard, oh yeah, what I'd like to, but you know, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And I think that's what the public sees too. We're looking for people who are courageous, just to do what they believe in their heart of hearts. And I think what this is referring to is what no one is talking about, but what I know and you know. There's a new generation of political aspirants who got their you know, toe tip in the water during the Obama campaign, who are skilled, who believe in community, who believe in outreach and inclusiveness of all people. They're doing crazy voter registration. They're looking at issues. Right. So the stuff we're doing on platform, it has its place in Washington, but it also has its place here. And the political establishment that is very cautious, it needs to take
Loosen
note.
up.
Loosen up.
Go with how you're feeling,
Go with
right?
how you feel.
You know, it was so interesting. There was a poll just the other day, and it said of probable voters, and I kept thinking, how can they decide probable voters when the registration figures are so incredibly high, new registrants?
Exactly.
So, I don't know, we'll see what happens. Is there a website for this?
There is, and thank you for this. It's www.blackequityalliance.org.
And how can we help?
Well, this is a good start, I have to say, because much of this work is getting, our name out there. And me as the president and CEO, I'm willing to work with all nonprofits, businesses, industry. They'll be seeing more of me. Our telephone number is 212-251-2480. That's my direct line. So, call me. And I appreciate this opportunity, Ronnie. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. And this is the end. But we want to add, you'll go any place to talk, right?
I'll go any place to talk.
Thank you, Joyce Johnson.
Thank you, Ronnie.
If there are any people you'd like to hear and topics you'd like us to explore, please let me know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.